It is in 10 books. Book I treats of Saint Peter. Chapters IV are drawn from the Gospels and Acts. 6:14 extracted from the Clementine literature. 15. The ordination of Clement. 16. Paul arrives, and from this to the end XX is the contest with Simon and the martyrdom from the pseudo-Hegesippus de Exodio Haerusol in my lib. 3. Book 2 of Paul, I6 from the canonical Acts. 7, 8 from the martyrdom. Book 3 of Andrew is Gregory's Book of Miracles and the Passion. Book IV of James the Great gives us new matter, only found here, though doubtless there was a Greek original. I describes James's preaching. Two. In the course of it he was opposed by Hermogenes and Philetus. Philetus was converted by James, and told Hermogenes he should leave him. Hermogenes in anger bound him by magical incantations and said,
"We will see if James can free you."
Philetus found means to send a servant to James, who sent back his kerchief, and by it Philetus was freed and came to James. Three. Hermogenes in anger sent devils to fetch both James and Philetus to him. But when they got there they began to howl in the air and complain that an angel had bound them with fiery chains. James sent them to bring Hermogenes bound. They tied his arms with ropes and brought him, mocking him.
"You are a foolish man,"
said James.
"but they shall not hurt you."
The devils clamored for leave to avenge themselves on him.
"Why do you not seize Philetus?"
said James.
"We dare not touch so much as an ant in your chamber."
They said. James bade Philetus loose Hermogenes, and he stood confounded.
"Go free,"
said James.
"for we do not render evil for evil. I fear the demons,"
he said. And James gave him his staff to protect him. 5. Armed with this, he went home and filled baskets with magical books and began to burn them.
"Not so,"
said James.
"lest the smoke vex the unwary. Cast them into the sea."
He did so, and returned and begged for pardon. James sent him to undo his former work on those he had deceived, and spend in charity what he had gained by his art. He obeyed, and so grew in faith that he even performed miracles. V. The Jews bribed 2 centurions, Lysias and Theocritus, to seize James. And while he was being taken away, there was a dispute between him and the Pharisees. He spoke to them first of Abraham, 6, and went on to cite prophecies.
Isaiah, "Behold a virgin." Jeremiah, "Behold, thy Redeemer shall come, O Jerusalem, and this shall be the sign of him, he shall open the eyes of the blind, restore hearing to the deaf, and raise the dead with his voice. Ezekiel, thy king shall come, O Zion, he shall come humbly, and restore thee. Daniel, as the Son of Man, so shall he come and receive princedoms and powers. David, the Lord said unto my Lord, Again, he shall call me, Thou art my Father. I will make him my firstborn. Of the fruits of thy body. Isaiah again, like a sheep to the slaughter. David, they pierced my hands. They gave me gall. For the comfortless trouble's sake. He is gone up on high. God is gone up. He rode on the cherubim. The Lord shall come, and shall not keep silence.
7.
Isaiah, the dead shall rise. David, God spake once. They rewarded me evil for good. He that did eat my bread. The earth opened and swallowed up Dathan.
8. The people cried out, "We have sinned." Abiathar the high priest stirred up a tumult, and a scribe cast a rope about James's neck and dragged him before Herod, who sentenced him to be beheaded. On the way he healed a paralytic. 9. The scribe, named Josias, was convinced, and prayed for pardon. And Abiathar procured that he should be beheaded with James. Water was brought, James baptized him, they exchanged the kiss of peace, and were beheaded. The tale of James forgiving his accuser is as old as Clement of Alexandria, who quotes it. Book V, of St. John I. From the Gospels and Acts. 2. The cauldron of oil at Ephesus, exile to Patmos, and recall. 3. The story of the robber, Clement of Alexandria, the ultimate source. I-13. Drusiana. 1418. Atticus and Eugenius, see above. 19. Destruction of Temple of Artemis. XX. 21. The poison, see above. Assumption of John. Book 6, of St. James the Less. I-6. From the Gospels and Acts, and from Hegesippus as quoted by Eusebius, Rufinus. 7 SQQ. SS. Simon and Jude, going to Persia, found there 2 magicians, Zeros and Arphaxad, whom Matthew had driven out of Ethiopia, see the next book. Their doctrines were that the God of the Old Testament was the God of darkness, Moses and the prophets deceivers, the soul the work of the good God, the body the work of the God of darkness, so that soul and body are contrary to each other, that the sun and moon are gods, and also water, that the incarnation of Christ was in appearance only, in fact, Manichaean doctrine. 8. On entering the country they met Virar-Dash, the general of King Xerxes, with an army preparing to repel an invasion of India. He had many priests and diviners with him. Their gods explained that they could give no answers because of the presence of Simon and Jude. Virar-Dash sent for them and they offered to expound their teaching. He said he would hear them after the campaign. Jude urged him to hear now. He asked them to foretell his success or failure. Simon said,
"We will allow your gods to answer your diviners."
So they prayed, and the prophets said,
There will be a great battle, and many will fall on either side.
The apostles laughed, though Virar-Dash was impressed. And they said,
The truth is that tomorrow the Indians will send and offer you peace, and become tributaries to Persia.
After some dispute with the priests it was agreed, X, that both parties should be kept in custody till tomorrow. 11. When the apostles' prediction was fulfilled. But they interceded for the priests, whom Virar-Dash would have killed.
At least,
Said he,
you will receive their goods.
their pay was reckoned up, 120 talents in all, besides the chief priests, who had 4 pounds of gold a month, and much raiment, ampersand C. The apostles' refusal to take this has dropped out, it seems. 12. On his return, Virar-Dash reported all this to the king. But Zeros and Arphaxad made light of it, and proposed a test before the apostles came. The lawyers of the land were to be summoned to dispute with them. And first they made them unable to speak, then restored their speech but took away their power of motion, and then made them unable to see. The lawyers retired in confusion. 14. Vardash told the apostles, and they asked him to send for the lawyers, and proposed a second trial. If the lawyers would believe on their God, they would sign them with the cross and enable them to overcome the wizards. The lawyers were at first inclined to despise them for their mean appearance, but, convinced by Simon's words, believed. The apostles prayed over them.
O God of Israel, who didst do away with the magic illusions of Jan's members, and give them over to confusion and sores and cause them to perish, let thine hand be also on these magicians Saros and Arphaxad, ampersand C.
The contest took place and the magicians were powerless. One of the lawyers, Zbeus, explained to the king how they were the instruments of the evil angel, and to file them to do as they had done the day before. They were enraged and called in a host of snakes. The apostles were hastily summoned, and made the snakes all turn on the magicians and bite them. They howled like wolves.
Kill them outright,
said the king. But the apostles refused, and instead made the serpents suck out all their venom, which hurt still more. And for 3 days, in the hospital, the wizards continued screaming. When they were on the point of death, the apostles healed them, saying,
Our God does not ask for forced service. If you will not believe, you may go free.
They wandered about Persia, slandering the apostles and telling the people to kill them when they came. The apostles stayed in Babylon, healing the sick, and ordaining clergy. A deacon was accused of incontinence by the daughter of a satrap who had been seduced by another. The parents clamored against the deacon Euphrosyne. The apostles sent for the infant who had been born that day, and on their bidding it spoke and cleared Euphrosyne, but the apostles refused to question it about the guilty man. 2 fierce tigers had escaped from their cages and were devouring everybody they met. The apostles, appealed to, made the beasts follow them home, where they stayed 3 days. Then the apostles called the people together, and announced that they were going to leave them to visit the rest of Persia. On the urgent prayer of the people they stayed 15 months longer, baptized 60,000 people, XX ordained Abdias bishop, and set out, accompanied by many disciples. For 15 years they traveled, and Craton their disciple recorded their acts in 10 books, which Africanus the historian translated into Latin, and from which we have here made extracts. Saros and Arphaxad always went before the apostles and warned people against them, but were as regularly confuted. At Suanir there were 70 priests who received a pound of gold apiece from the king at each of the feasts of the sun at the beginning of each of the 4 seasons. The magicians warned these men that 2 Hebrews were coming, who would deprive them of all their gains.
They should be compelled to sacrifice immediately on their arrival.
21. After traveling through all the 12 provinces, the apostles came to Suanir and lodged with the chief citizen, Sense. The priests and mob flocked thither, crying out,
Bring out the enemies of our gods.
So they were taken to the temple of the sun, and as they entered the devils began to cry out that they were being burned. In the east, in the temple, was a 4-horse chariot of the sun in silver, and on the other side a 4-ox chariot of the moon, also silver. XXII. The priests would now compel the apostles to sacrifice. Jude said to Simon.
I see the Lord calling us.
Simon.
I see him also among the angels. Moreover, an angel has said to me, Go out hence and the temple shall fall. But I said, No, for some here may be converted.
As they spoke in Hebrew, an angel came and said,
Choose either the death of all here or the palm of martyrdom.
They chose the palm. As the priests pressed on them, they demanded silence. After a few words, Simon commanded the devil to leave the chariot of the sun and break it, and Jude spoke likewise of the moon. Two hideous black men appeared and fled howling. The priests and people attacked the apostles and slew them. XXII. This was on the 1st of July. Sin suffered with them. Lightning struck the temple and split it into 3 pieces and burnt the rose and artifacts to coal. After 3 months, Xerxes sent and confiscated the priests' goods and translated the bodies to his city, and built a marble basilica, octagonal, and 8 times 80 feet in circumference and 120 feet high, plated with gold inside, and the sarcophagus of silver in the middle. It took 3 years to build. Book 7 of St. Matthew. He came to Nidavar in Ethiopia, where King Agylippus reigned. There were 2 magicians, Zeros and Arphaxad, who could make men immovable, blind, or deaf as they pleased, and also charmed serpents, like the Marsi. 2. Matthew counteracted all these acts, sent the snakes to sleep, and cured their bites with the cross. A eunuch named Candaces, whom Philip had baptized, took the apostle in, and he did many cures. Candaces asked him how he, a Hebrew, could speak other tongues. Matthew told him the story of Babel and of Pentecost. One came and announced that the magicians were coming with 2 crested dragons breathing fire and brimstone. Matthew crossed himself and rose to meet him.
Speak from the window,
said Candaces.
You can be at the window. I will go out.
When the dragons approached, both fell asleep at Matthew's feet, and he challenged the magicians to rouse them. They could not. Then he adjured them to go quietly and hurt no man, and so they did. The apostle then spoke, describing paradise at length, and 6. The fall. The description of paradise is rather interesting. 7. It was now announced that Euphranor the king's son was dead. The magicians, who could not raise him, said he had been taken up among the gods, and an image and temple ought to be built. Candaces said,
Keep these men till Matthew comes.
He came, the queen Euphranissa fell at his feet. He consoled her and raised Euphranor. 8. The people came to sacrifice to him as a god. He persuaded them to build a church. 11,000 men did it in 30 days. It was called the Resurrection. Matthew presided there 23 years, ordained clergy and founded churches. Baptized the king, queen, prince, and princess Iphigenia, who vowed chastity. Zeros and Arphaxad fled the country. It would be long to tell of all Matthew's cures and miracles. I will proceed to his martyrdom. 9. Agylippus was succeeded by his brother Hyrtacus, who wished to marry Iphigenia, now presiding over more than 200 sacred virgins. He offered Matthew half his kingdom to persuade her. Matthew said,
Assemble all the virgins tomorrow, and you shall hear what good things I will speak of marriage.
X. His address on the divine institution and merits of matrimony, 11. Loudly applauded by Hyrtacus and his followers. He then pointed out that it would be sacrilege to marry Iphigenia. Hyrtacus went away in a rage. But Matthew exhorted them not to fear man. 13. Iphigenia prayed him to consecrate her and the other virgins. And he veiled them with a long prayer. And as he stood at the altar praying, a soldier sent by Hyrtacus pierced him in the back and he died. The people threatened to burn the palace, but the clergy restrained them. 15. Iphigenia gave all her wealth to the church. Hyrtacus sent the nobles' wives to her, then tried to send demons to carry her off, then surrounded her house with fire. But an angel, and Matthew, appeared and encouraged her. And a great wind rose and drove all the fire on the palace, and only Hyrtacus and his son escaped. The son was seized by a devil, and rushed to Matthew's tomb, and confessed his father's crimes. Hyrtacus was attacked with elephantiasis, and stabbed himself. Beer, the brother of Iphigenia, a Christian, succeeded and reigned 25 years, dying at 88, and appointing successors in his lifetime, and he had peace with the Romans and Persians, and all Ethiopia was filled with churches, unto this day. This and the last book are linked together by the figures of the rose and Arphaxad, and strictly Matthew should, we see, precede Simon and Jude. The discourses in Matthew are much longer than in the other, and a certain consciousness of the existence of the Abyssinian Church is shown. Book 8, of St. Bartholomew. This, as Bonnet has shown, is the original of the Greek Passion, edited by Tischendorf, of which there is but one manuscript, dated 1279. The Latin manuscripts go back to the 8th or 9th century. India is divided into 3 parts. Bartholomew came thither to a temple of Astaroth, who ceased to answer his worshippers. So they went to another city, and inquired of Bereth, the Rith, who said Bartholomew was the cause.
What is he like?
They asked.
He has black curly hair, white skin, large eyes, straight nose, his hair covers his ears, his beard long and grizzled, middle height. He wears a white colobium with a purple stripe, and a white cloak with 4 purple gems at the corners. For 26 years he has worn these and they never grow old. His shoes have lasted 26 years. He prays 100 times a day and 100 times a night. His voice is like a trumpet. Angels wait on him. He is always cheerful and knows all languages.
For 2 days they could not find him, but then he cast a devil out of a man. King Polemius heard of it and sent for him to heal his lunatic daughter who bit everyone. She was loosed, the apostle having reassured her keepers, and cured. The king sent camels laden with riches, but the apostle could not be found. Next day, however, he came to the king and expounded the Christian faith, and offered to show him the devil who inhabited his idol. was a dialogue, in which the demon explained his doings. Bartholomew made the people try to pull the statue down, but they could not. The ropes were removed and he bade the demon leave the statue, which was instantly broken. After a prayer of the apostle, an angel appeared and signed the four corners of the temple with the cross, and then showed them the devil, black, sharp-faced, with long beard, hair to the feet, fiery eyes, breathing flame, spiky wings like a hedgehog, bound with fiery chains. And then the angel sent him away howling. The king and the rest were baptized. But the heathen priests went and complained to his brother Astyages, who had Bartholomew brought bound, and questioned him. It was told him that his idol of Abdias had fallen and was broken to pieces, and in anger he had Bartholomew beaten with clubs and beheaded. The Greek puts inflated, in accordance with the late tradition. And the people buried him honorably, and built a basilica over him. After 20 days Astyages was seized by a devil, and he and all the priests died. And there was great fear, and all believed. The king, Polemius, became bishop and presided 20 years. Book 9, of Thomas. I remember to have read a book in which his journey to India and Acts there are set forth. But as it is by many not received because of its wordiness, I will omit what is superfluous and record what is plainly true, agreeable to the reader, and can edify the church. 2. The sale to Athens and a marriage feast. v. 6. The palace. 7. Cure of possessed woman. The youth who killed a woman. 8, 9. Sephora's wife and daughter. 9-11. Madonia and Tiresias. 12. Tertia, Treptia, and Zuzans, who goes with his mother to Madonia and is converted with her. 13. Thomas before Miss Days. 14. The iron plates. Thomas is put into the bath furnace for a night, it cannot be heated, he is brought to the temple of the sun, with its gold four-horsed chariot. 15. Virgins enter, singing and playing. Thomas speaks with the demon in the image. The image is melted. Thomas and the rest are imprisoned. These chapters are an interpolation. 16xxv epitomize the old Acts. The great prayer of Thomas immediately precedes his death. Book X of St. Philip is quite short. He goes to Scythia 20 years after the Ascension. 2. Before a statue of Mars, a great dragon comes out from beneath the statue and kills the priest's son and 2 tribunes, and makes many ill with its venomous breath. Philip banishes the dragon and raises and heals the dead and sick. 3. He teaches them for a year, they break the image, and many thousands are baptized. After ordaining bishop and clergy he returns to Asia, to Hierapolis, where he extinguishes the malignant heresy of the Bionites, who said that the Son of God was not born as a man, but took his humanity from the Virgin. 5. And he had 2 daughters who converted many. 7 days before his death he calls the clergy together, exhorts them, and dies, aged 87, and is buried at Hierapolis, and his 2 daughters after a few years are laid at his right and left, where many miracles are done by his intercession. This is wholly divergent from the Greek accounts. Yet some Western texts, notably those current in Ireland, are aware of the story of his crucifixion at Hierapolis, and blend it awkwardly with the Latin legend.